on. There was a time where we didn't think this day would come, but cooler heads prevailed. And I'm so happy to say we are now going to record a Major League Baseball season preview. I have my main man, one of the best people in the podcasting world and future star in this industry, as I already say many a times, but so got to have one of my great partners in this endeavor. Alex Young is here to talk baseball preview with me. Alex, great to see you, dude.
Good to see you too, Matt. Thanks again for having me. I don't know. I got to keep track of how many times this is for me. I might be climbing the all-time ranks of appearances on your podcast. But thank you again
Oh,
for
it's
having me on. Baseball's back. It's going to be great. Yeah.
for good reason. You're great at this, and we're gonna be doing this until we're old men. And we'll have flying Max at that point to record what we're doing. But yeah, this is great. Great friend of the show, great friend in general. So this is really cool because, like I said, you and I talked throughout the last couple of years. This strike is coming. This strike is or lockout, not strike, but lockout's coming. Lockout happened. It lasted 6 months, and then one day they finally said, let's do it. And they signed the CBA. They had their 4 weeks of spring training. And as we're releasing this on Thursday, the 7th, it's opening day. And Alex, how do you personally feel about the road to getting here?
I was a little nervous. As you know, me and you were talking, kind of at the peak of the lockout. And we were getting nervous that we weren't going to have a season. It seemed that they were very far off on things. And then it seemed like it was getting close. And then they would disagree about something. And then it would just fall apart again. And then it looked like nothing was going to happen. And then all of a sudden it came, okay, let's get the bigger issues out of the way. And then like the
Mm-hmm.
minor things that are causing us to separate, let's put that down the road and we'll get things working. Not the international draft, things like that. And then they got the deal done, and then we're like, okay, we're in this. And luckily, it was now okay. They can deal with the international draft stuff down the line and some of the small things, pitch grip stuff. They didn't really talk about during this CBA, so who knows what happens with rule enforcement down the line with that. But I'm just happy the deal got done because it looked like we weren't going to have a season, or it was going to be a very, very shortened season, similar to the COVID year again. And luckily, they prevailed. They figured a common ground, and now we have baseball, and luckily don't have to worry about another potential lockout for I think 5 years now. So happy that baseball is finally back.
And it could take its time. We could wait. But for now, we're focusing on this, the 22 MLB season, before they have the drastic moves of bigger bases, no shift, expanded playoffs. We could focus on this as traditional as you could get. But one thing we're having to is the universal DH, which is dope. And the way we figured the best way to go about this is to go off and discuss each division, who we like, who we don't like. Then obviously we'll talk Yankees and Mets because, that's king in this. And then we'll make our picks on who we think will be in the World Series. So let's start with that. Let's go with the NL East right away. And let's talk about the team you're wearing, the team we've waited a long time. Even if we have some obstacles to start the season, which we'll obviously get into. But Alex, this has to be literally as little you could get. The most excited you must be for your New York Mets. Tell me the obvious and less obvious reasons why.
Definitely the most excited I've been. I actually just talked to my dad, and we'll explain why we're a little upset and a little nervous
Mm-hmm.
going into the season. But overall, this offseason might go down as the best or the most historic offseason the Mets have had, right? It was a time that Cohen said, I'm going to put the money down, and he backed it up by saying that and being smart with the money, right? Scherzer gets a lot of money, but it's a short term deal. It's nothing that we really have to worry about,
Mm-hmm.
5 years from now. Gets Starling Marte, a defensive center fielder that we've been asking for years. Gets the depth bats in Water Escobar and Mark Canna. So, it's just everything's exciting. It's a team that the pieces that we need to target, they made. They made the trade for Chris Bassett, which I think is fantastic, adds depth for this reason. Now, the things that I said we're nervous about. Jacob DeGrom and his obvious shoulder, arm injuries that he's had.
Mm.
Surgery came back up. He's going to be shut down for 4 weeks. Who knows what happens after those 4 weeks? Scherzer now with a little bit of a hamstring injury, but I'm not as nervous as him. It's not his arm, it's his hamstring. He'll hopefully be okay. Maybe a week into the season, he might miss opening day. Totally fine with that. That's why they got a depth with Bassett or stuff like that. Tyler McGill, who I think is looking really good. David Peterson had a good spot starts last year, so the depth's there. But again, it's nerve wracking with Jacob now that it seems that his arm is becoming an issue. And I don't know if it's because he's trying to pump 101, 102 on a regular basis and his arm
Yeah.
able to handle it, or whatever the case might be. He's still as dominant when he's throwing 95 to 98. I don't know if he has to change his mechanics. I really don't know what's going on. It just seems that something is there's something, like I said, his shoulder is messed up. Then he had his elbow issues, and it's flared up right at the peak of spring training when he looked like dominant Jacob deGrom, right? So we have to see what happens here. That's a little nerve wracking part of this season. Obviously, the first 4 weeks, it sucks that we're not going to have him. But I'm not worried about that. It was like last year, I was explaining to my dad and some of my friends, is that like last year during the peak of our playoff push, he gets hurt and everything kind of derailed after that, right? Like everything just kind of started falling apart. And it just showed how much it meant to the team. So going this year, I hope, the first 4 weeks I'm shutting down, they maybe find what the issue might be. But I hope in that time, in this time frame, that they can make it so that, his arm can hold up for the season, because we definitely need him. But I think they made the moves, the depth moves needed to hang on with his absence. But him added to this team obviously adds a whole other layer. So it's definitely going to be an exciting year. I think we're a playoff team. We should be. If not, it's going to be a huge disaster. I'm really excited to see how Buck Showalter is as manager. I've loved him throughout his whole career. I think he's a fantastic manager. I think he's the best fit for this team. He was the hire I wanted. So I'm excited to see him and see how he is with this team, going into the season. But yeah, I mean, I'm super excited. It's just, in the back of my head, it's just the nerves of not knowing what's going on with Jacob deGrom and seeing what's happening this season is really kind of the only hinder right now of like, of course, we're super excited and then the Mets curse hits again and now we're back to square one. So we just have to see with him. But overall, I'm super excited for baseball to be back and to see the Mets this year because I think it's going to be a really fun year.
As you said, the big thing with this is deGrom's inconvenient injury. As you said, give him 4 weeks to actually heal the injury and then maybe another few weeks of rehab. Let's say by Memorial Day, you see him back and still early in the season. Do you think the Mets can still be a very dominant player in this National League, even if you don't have your number one ace for the first 2 months?
Yes, and that's because we have Scherzer, right? So he could be the backup ace, if you will, which is just
Backup
like a weird
ace.
statement to say. Max Scherzer is a first ballot Hall of Famer and one of the best pitchers we've seen in our generation, right? So, that's what we kind of brought him in for. At the same time, to have these two dominant starters. So, hopefully his hamstring injury, like I said, if he misses like the first week of the season, he's back. That's totally, great. But that's why we kind of had Scherzer as his like insurance plan, if you will. So I think they'll be okay. And it's mainly, at the end of the day, we have to see how this offense is, because pitching only goes so far, right? So we have to see, Lindor, who I thought looked fantastic in spring training this year. I think he really settled. I think it took him a little while to adjust to New York. Obviously, the thumbs down thing later on in the season didn't really help him. But I think this year, him coming off and looking at his spring training, he looks confident. He was just ripping balls left and right, hitting a couple big home runs and stuff. So I think he's finally settled in New York. So I think he's gonna have a good bounce back year. But I think you just to see how this offense gels. There's a lot of new pieces here, but also you have the Pete Alonsos of the world on this team. So and Brandon Nimmo and all these guys. So I'm excited. His pitching staff should be great from top to bottom, but it's just at the end of the day, I want to see how this offense clicks, especially early on without Jacob deGrom. This offense really has to click. They have to get some crucial wins early and really hang on until Jake comes back and then go running from there.
All right. And comparing them to the other teams of this division, you got a Nationals team and Marlins team who looks like they'll be rebuilding. Marlins rebuilding again. No hope in sight. That's too bad for them with a new owner coming in. The Phillies seem to be, they did pick up some players. Got a really good Girardi managing underwhelming team last year, but who knows if they can make some kind of run. And then Braves, the reigning World Series champions, without arguably the best hitter in Freddie Freeman, replaced that with Matt Olson, who came from Oakland, not the Yankees, but who am I to judge? Or there is a lot to judge there, but we'll get into that. Compare the rest of the division. Do you think that they could compete, and who do you think would be the only team to make a run against them?
I mean, obviously, I'm the Mets optimist, so I hope they win the division. But who knows, right? I really like what the Braves did this offseason. Obviously, they're the reigning World Series champion. They really saw what the Mets did. They made their moves. They add, Kenley Jansen. They add Matt Olson to that team. With needs. Obviously, you lose Freddie Freeman, which is unfortunate. But you get a guy who's younger and arguably maybe better offensively than Freddie Freeman. I know that's tough to say. He's obviously, a great player. But you get a younger Matt Olson who's coming off a great year. So I think Atlanta is a team to look out for. Obviously, Ronald Acuna will be back from his torn ACL, I believe, in early May, they're saying at this point.
Mm-hmm.
You add him to that lineup. He's an MVP candidate as well. So that's the team I'm looking out for. I know we mentioned the Phillies. I'd like to move with Nick Castellanos, but again, that team defensively, I really don't know. They might be one of the worst defensive teams, but their offense looks like it on paper looks like it's going to be incredible. So they're a team to look out for. But I think if I'm looking at the rest of the division, I think the Braves are the team that's really going to battle with the Mets. And I think Philly can creep up. The Nationals, I love Juan Soto. I think to me, he's a favorite for NL MVP this year, but the rest of the roster, I'm not really afraid of. And the Marlins are constantly rebuilding. They had a good year in the COVID year. But other than that, who I thought last year, I thought they were going to be good, but obviously my prediction last year with them was wrong. So it looks like they're going in a path to rebuild, even though they have a lot of really young arms. So at the end of the day, if I'm going to be biased Mets fans, I think it's going to be 1 Mets, 2 Braves, 3 Phillies in the NL East. And then, we'll see what happens. Anything can happen in baseball. A team can make a surprise here. We don't know yet.
Other two is a flip of a coin. Cool. Now let's go to the AL East. Let's hit on the Yankees. And listen, I'm the Yankee fan in this chat, and I really, really am excited for what is in store. Yes, probably the big thing to discuss with the Yankees going into 2022 was the major roster moves they needed to do. And whether you think it's Cashman or Hal Steinbrenner, they were very conservative in getting players this year. People wanted to see Carlos Correa, Freddie Freeman, I'm blanking on Matt Olson. Instead, you pick up an aging Josh Donaldson, who's going to be your starting third baseman. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is going to be the shortstop, who's a solid hitting shortstop, who does have some pop in his bat and is great defensively, which I think is an awesome move. Anthony Rizzo comes back, which I'm actually not as disappointed as some others. Before he had COVID, he was awesome. Great home runs, awesome on the field. I'm not disappointed there. And then with the pitching rotation that really virtually did change, you have Garrett Cole, Luis Severino, Jameson Taillon. Then we have some other spots available. Didn't go get people like Sean Manaea or Chris Brissett, who went to the Mets, and we have to deal with. This right here, and expecting Aaron Judge to re-sign. I'm going to assume he re-signs by the time we record this on opening day, or release it on opening day. Assuming he is re-signed, this team, I think you think last year was a pressure cooker. This is it. If we do not win the AL pennant, someone's gonna get fired. I think Cashman's run will come to an end. Even though people are saying this is more of the people above him, saying who he could go after. With all these different teams he's put on the field, coming up short, maybe something has to change once and for all. I mean, you really have. It's weird with DJ LeMahieu. What are you going to do with him? He doesn't have a position if you're going to have Glaber stay. The outfield, you have 4 solid players, and not that that's a bad thing, but what are you going to do with Hicks returning? You have Judge, Stanton, Gallo, and Hicks. Are they all going to play different roles? Like, this is a really weird Yankee roster, but I still think is capable of winning 90 games. They clearly have sluggers. Now adding some more contact, which Donaldson, who I do think if he's a player who could still have something left, nice scrappy ball player, and maybe could pump us up. Obviously, the other big thing, Gary Sanchez is no more, which is how it should be. Looks like Kyle Higashioka is going to be your starting catcher. Did not see that coming, but I'm not mad. This guy has some pop too. Garrett Cole clearly loves him, and this is his opportunity. But if the Yankees underachieve, I think Cashman's gone. Boone's here for another 5 years. So, or honestly, maybe he doesn't stay. It seems it's just so this lately, this even though Hal Steinbrenner's been in power since 2010, it seems now, in 12 years later, he's now putting his spin of things. But it's a weird Yankee team, but I still think are capable to win 90 games. Now, this is a very hard division to pull it off. So you really don't know where this is going. And maybe this is a time where I'm legitimately nervous going into a season. But regardless, the Yankees somehow could pull it off. And this would be the time to do it. And if they don't, there's going to be a lot of angry people. So, Alex, I gave you my venting. I vented out to you how I feel about the Yankees being on your objective side. Where do you see this team going?
It's tough. I know we talked a couple weeks ago, and then there's like some things kind of changed. I think they're still good to win 90 games, like you said, but there's a lot of like ifs on this team,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like that's where Yankee fans are getting nervous. It's like if Rizzo stays healthy, right, or if
Yep.
he bounces back, he could be the player that we've seen for from 2012 to 2016 or a little bit longer when he was a top 5 first baseman. He has that talent. Same with Donaldson. If Donaldson can stay healthy, can he return to form? He's always good to hit 25 plus home runs. We know he has that. But the problem is actually using that is he hasn't been healthy. Severino, same thing with him. Like, is he gonna be the dominant starter we saw early on in his career before?
Oh, he's got to, Alex. He's got
He's
to.
got it. He's got to. There's a lot of pressure on him. And then again, the outfield, there's a lot of depth. What are you gonna do? Stan? Is he gonna be your DH? Is he, but he was hitting better when he was in the outfield. There's a lot of question marks. At the end of the day, I think the rotation is the biggest one. Seeming as there wasn't a lot of changes and or moves, and I think that's the weakest part of this team. Is the starting rotation behind Garrett Cole. Again, if Cole's healthy, he's a
Yes.
Cy Young candidate. I know there's a lot of angry Yankee fans saying that they should trade. I don't know. There's a whole weird thing. I don't believe in that. I think when he got destroyed against the Red Sox, there's probably something flared up, and he just had a bad game in a 4-2. It was a wild card game.
Just
But
the
we know
wrong
what he
time
can
to
do.
have a bad
Yeah,
game.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So we know what he can do. He's been dominant in Yankee uniform. It's like he was like he never was. It's just this division is really, really, really tough, and they
Yeah.
have to get off to a hot start here. And that's the thing. It's like, can this rotation limit runs? Can the offense gel early? Because you look at this division, like the Red Sox are pretty tooled up. And I know they don't have Chris Sale, but they have done well without him before. And they add Trevor Story to this, right? And the Rays, this team that's a low budget team, but they have so many good prospects, and they're always competing, and they're constantly in the World Series conversation because of how smart they are down there. And then you got the Blue Jays, who add Matt Chapman on top of one of arguably, I know they lost Marcus Simeon, but you add Matt Chapman, and you still have this incredibly hot offense led by a potential AL MVP candidate, Vlad Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette and all those guys. Like, you add Matt Chapman to that, and he's a platinum globe, he's there for his defense, but in spring training, looked like the offense of Matt Chapman was back, right? So it's for this Yankee team, it's very tough this year. You can't just breeze by like they've done before. Like these other teams, the Blue Jays, the Red Sox, the Rays, they all built this team to compete. And the Yankees really, like I said, have to get to a hot start here. I think they can win 90 games, but I don't think they're winning this division. I really don't, unless they get hot early. and they make some significant trades. But I don't see that happening with the way that it seems that they want to kind of hoard their farm system right now and not really give up prospects. So we have to see with this team, but I said it's a lot of like if, and that's why I think you guys are getting a little nervous and hesitant as Yankee fans because you need this to happen. Otherwise, this season's not going to go your way, especially in this tough division this year.
And we have to account. I think it's with these. You're seeing sudden moves so close with the start, obviously from the pandemic. So Sean Manaea, who clearly would have been a great pickup, he gets traded the week less than a week before the season starts. Maybe we see some of those moves there. I don't know. I'm guessing, but Cashman made good moves in the trade deadline. They just failed. Like, I mean, sure, you could have projected what these guys are coming in Gallo and Rizzo, but I think for this, unless if he genuinely feels pressure for his job, and you know what, with how things have been going, I'm obviously not in his shoes, but for a guy who's been the GM for 24 years with Cashman, how much does he care about his job security to be aggressive? We've seen him make moves in the middle, early in the season before. Like look at Odor in May, that for a second was cool, but didn't pan out. I think we're gonna just have to see how this rotation unfolds. Nobody really believes in Garrett Cole right now. I hope he has some bug in him to get off to a hot start. And Sevy, as you said, if he can pull it off and have a good season, I think we'll be okay. But only time will tell with them. And clearly, you have the best competition you can have in the arguably the toughest division in the AL. So someone's going to sink or swim. Let it not be the Yankees. So AL Central with a new team on the block, kind of. Cleveland Guardians are here. You have the White Sox, who have oddly underachieved. Made the playoffs last year, but they thought they'd be a more dominant team with so many players. Not a lot of people know about Yolis Robert and Eloy Jimenez, to name a couple. That's gonna be cool. The Twins. Now you do add Carlos Correa, you add Gio Urshela, you add Gary Sanchez. And despite how much we're glad to see him go, wouldn't it be funny if he turns to 2016 Gary Sanchez? That's a team to watch out for. The Tigers even added some players, Javi Baez, for instance. And then the Royals are the Royals. I don't have much to say there. But this AL Central, I think, is the most interesting division out of all the other ones. Where do you think this division can go?
I really like the White Sox
Mm-hmm.
again this year. I think they were a year ahead last year.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of young talent, like you said, Eloy Jimenez, Luis Robert, just to name a few. They have a young pitching staff, great bullpen. So I, I I was really surprised how well they played last year. I wasn't expecting it. And I know some people were. I think it's their division to lose. I really like the Tigers this year. I don't know
Really?
what it is about them. I really like them. I think adding Javi Baez, they have the young prospects coming up. Spencer Torkelson made it to the opening day roster, and Miggy was the one to kind of pass the torch to him to let him know that he made the opening day roster. I thought that was really cool.
Really? I didn't see that. I got to check that
Yeah.
out.
So kind of cool to see that moment. And I think they just have a lot of young talent on that team. Do I think they're going to win the division? No, I think they're a team to kind of look out for. Obviously, for future references. Um, I like Minnesota, but every time I feel like they like, I don't know, they're kind of underwhelming. It's like, oh, they do this, they do that, and it's like, oh, this should be a good team, and then it's like they either make the playoffs and lose right away, or they're just a fringe wild card team, or whatever the case might be. I like the addition of Carlos Correa to that team. I just don't. They're such a tough team to decide if they're going to be good or not. Um, I just really like the White Sox. Like I said, I think probably the Twins as the second team, even though I really up in the air. I got to see how they start. Probably the Tigers. Cleveland seems to be rebuilding. I think they're going to try to sign Jose Ramirez back. So we'll see if that happens. If not, they're probably going to do a typical Guardians move where they say they're going to re-sign a guy and just trade him. So we'll see. And the Royals, like you said, are just the Royals. I think if you're going to watch the Royals, the only reason why you're going to watch the Royals is for Bobby Wood Jr., their top prospect, one of the top prospects of baseball. to see how he does at the major league level and see if he's the exciting, player that people pan him out to be.
Do you think Correa, if he has a great season, he'll leave? He has that opt-out deal with a 3-year with all 3 opt-outs. You think he would do such a thing?
I think he would, just to see if a team's going to give him that like super max deal. Like if a team's going to give him like 7 years plus at 300 plus million, and I'm saying he has a year where he bats like 295, 300, 25 plus home runs, 100 plus RBIs. Maybe I know that's a lot. That's like a huge season, but we see Carlos Correa, kind of have numbers like that before. I feel he's betting on himself, but also his contract is so interesting that, like you said, if he has like a weird down year, he's just gonna opt in, right? And then he's gonna try again. But if he has a fantastic year, I think I can see him seeing if he can cash in. But I know he's getting paid a bunch of money, so that's like kind of tough. It's like if I have a great season, do I take a chance and get this longer deal and maybe get 30 or 30 million plus, or do I just opt into these 3 years in Minnesota and I'm getting 35 or something like that? It's like a crazy high number, the highest paid infielder in baseball. Am I just gonna opt in there? So that's tough. It definitely is weird, but I think if he does have a wild year, I think he could do something where he opts out because he knows the team is potentially going to offer him, the year security that he wants, where he's going to get, a 5, 6, 7, or more year deal.
Yes, excellent points there. And I really I would just like to see the White Sox make a deep run again. ALCS, we haven't seen the White Sox in a long time make some noise, made noise quietly last year. And don't forget, they have Tony La Russa managing, which is nice to see too.
They were my pick to win the World Series last year, and that did poorly for me.
Well, maybe it's time to put that fan duel out there and bet him again. I'd like to see who you pick at the end of this show ultimately. So the NL Central, with teams that I guess don't like their fans, like the Reds get rid of some of their best players. Cubs have some new faces. The Brewers add a little bit. They're an exciting team to watch for. The Pirates don't like their fans, so there's no hope there. But watch out for his last name Hayes, but I can't think of Brian Hayes. That's for something that I guess they'll just trade him anyways. And then the Cardinals. Cardinals are interesting odds. They get a new manager themselves as well. But the NL Central, I think the Brewers are a team that will make it out with the Central Crown. They're really great and underrated pitching rotation with Corbett Burns, Brandon Rudolph, Freddie Peralta, to name a few. Still keeping Josh Hader. Some people thought people might try to make a deal for him, but they're keeping him, and I think he's the best closer in the game. Obviously, when you have Christian Yelich, not losing a stride, he's going to be a lot of fun. You add Andrew McCutchen, who's going to be a solid DH. I think that's a team that would really take advantage of having a DH in their lineup. I say the Brewers can win this division. How do you see the division? Otherwise, do you also think the Brewers can make a run, or the other ones, or any of the other teams?
I think it's the Brewers' division to lose. I do like the Cardinals. I like the team that they've constructed. But just the talent that the Brewers have, the Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, Freddie Peralta, their top 3 in the rotation is just electric. They have Hunter Renfroe. Christian Yelich, I know had a down year last year, but he's won an MVP. We know what he can do. He's a great overall player. Devin Williams, great in the bullpen as well. Josh Hader. I just like the team that they have. And they're kind of always are like a quiet team. They're a quiet, like good team. Like not a lot of people talk about the Milwaukee Brewers. So I really think it's their division to lose. I like the Cardinals. I think they can be a wild card team this year. They added some pieces. Obviously, they pissed off Steve Cohen by signing Steven Matz. And supposedly he got mad at his agent when that happened. I don't know. It was wild. That he aired out on Twitter that I remember. I was like, why are you yelling at? But that's beside the point. But I think the Cardinals are a good team. But I think, like I said before, I think this is the Brewers division to lose at all. The Pirates, I feel so sorry for their fans. they have an electric prospect, O'Neal Cruz. They send him down. I understand he probably needs a little bit more time at AAA. Only played 6 AAA games, but he's such a good player and looked good in spring training. You'd be a reason to tune in. You really only have, like you said, Brian Hayes and Brian Reynolds to watch for the Pirates. The Reds, they blew up their whole team. Don't know what they're doing. Hunter Green, who got called up finally. I feel like that was like a long time in the making too. We'll see how he was once top, pick, top prospect. So we'll see. But the Cubs, I don't know. I know they added Marcus Stroman. So we'll see what happens there. I don't like the rest of the team really, but like I keep on saying, this is really the Brewers division, and I think they're potentially going to run away with it early.
And hopefully, with two people who seem to be happy to leave the New York teams, and Stroman and Clint Frazier, hopefully they lose with the Cubs, and that'll be hilarious. So the AL West, you have the Astros back at it. Looks like they are the favorite again. You have the Mariners, who were so close to making the playoffs, so close. It went down to game 162, couldn't hold on. Maybe they can make a run again. Adding people like Jesse Winkler might help. We have a returning Mike Trout with the Angels. Obviously, Shohei Ohtani looking healthy. You can be excited there, but they didn't really add much, especially they need help pitching. Texas Rangers add Corey Seager and Marcus Semien. Maybe they are a ways away to win their division, but taking slow steps. And then another team who doesn't care about their fans, the Oakland A's, truly having a fire sale. I mean, just go to Vegas already. Like, we know what you're gonna do is just pull the plug, and then Oakland losing all their sports franchises, and that'd be a great podcast to have. How do you feel seeing them all leave? But we'll say that for another day. AL West, even though I just hate this team so much, I do think the Astros can win again. The only real loss was Correa, but it seems that they can easily replace him. You still have Altuve and Bregman, and a returning Verlander could be good too. But he's really old, but maybe he still has like Scherzer 2 more solid years left. And we'll pick it up from there. Dusty Baker almost had brought them another World Series. They made it to game 6, but fell short. But the Astros, do you think it's the Astros, A's, Angels, Rangers, Mariners, the AL West? Alex, what direction are we going there?
I'm going with the Astros just because they've been consistently one of the best teams in the AL West, and I don't see that slowing down. No, to lose Correa, but they still have a ton of talent, like you said. Kyle Tucker is, one of the best outfielders in baseball, in my opinion, and I think he's going to take a big step this year. You have the Altuve's, you have Verlander coming back, off injury. We'll see what he has left in the tank. But I can't discount the Astros. Like I said, they've just been consistently so good in this division. I don't really see anything where I'm kind of alarmed that they might fall off. I think they're still going to be consistently great. I'm interested to see what the Rangers, how they are. I think they're a couple of years away, like you said. With even with the additions of Simeon and Seager, I just think there's still a lot of holes in that team that they need to work on in order to consistently be in the division. Mariners, I really like this year. I love the Jesse Winker move. I love them signing Robbie Ray. I love them getting Eugenio Suarez in the Winker deal as well. Not only just because I know he's had a really down year offensively, even though he hit a bunch of home runs. I think he can bounce back, but he is a guy, like I said, Suarez, who can hit 30 plus home runs. And maybe a change of scenery is good for him in Seattle. We'll see. But I just like Jesse Winker All-Star last year. I think he's perfect for this team. They have one of their exciting prospects in J-Rod getting called up, Julio Rodriguez. He's on the opening day roster. He's going to be exciting to see. So I think I know we talked a few weeks ago. I said I think the Mariners finally end their streak. I think they are going to be in the playoffs this year. I just think
21 years.
It's been a long time. I think they're going to be a wild card team. I think the Astros will probably win the division, but who knows? I really like the moves the Mariners made. I think they could even win the division here, but we have to see how this team gels early on with their new additions and their young talent. I guess because the Astros are consistently good, it's so hard to bet against them. And yeah, like you said, the rest of the division. Angels love Mike Trout, love Shohei Ohtani. The only pitching move they made was getting Noah Syndergaard. And is that going to move the needle for them? Who knows? I know, can they gel? Could they be a wild card team? Sure. Don't know. I feel like the Angels, there's always lofty expectations because they have Trout, who's arguably the best player of a generation, and Shohei Ohtani now. It's just who knows how the rest of this team if they're gonna click and win games. But you never know. And then obviously the Athletics are a fire sale. They're probably going to be the worst team in baseball, if not one of the worst teams in baseball. And they're still going to sell some things off. They still haven't traded, Montes yet. There's still going to be more moves that they're going to, move on from. So we'll see. But in my opinion, I agree with you. I think it's going to be the Astros and or Seattle this year coming out of the AL West.
I'd like something new also with that Seattle, with that stuff going on with Seattle. And now they do have a legit ace, Robbie Way. I mean, he won the Cy Young Award. So please continue this. And that announcer, I don't know his name, but he was so hyped when they almost pulled it off. So viral clips, bring him back.
Yeah, he's great. I can't think of his name off the top, but every time I see that clip, I get hyped. It's great announcer. So
NL West, the final division before we make our future picks. Mm-hmm. The Dodgers. They're really turning into what the Yankees used to be. Falling short, not even making the World Series. They get Freddie Freeman, who's still in his prime. A huge step up from the rotating Max Muncy, Cody Bellinger, first baseman. And yeah, what can you say? They don't have Max Scherzer. They brought back Clayton Kershaw, so who knows? I guess Walker Buehler could be the guy there. But I think the Dodgers are almost a lock to be the NLCS already. On top of this, you have the Padres with so much high expectations. This team only won 79 games last year. A lot of people think they can make a bounce back year, even with the uncertainty with Fernando Tatis and his wrist injury, which I don't know if we have an update there yet, but that's going to be big. That's the team to look out for. You have the Diamondbacks, who are clearly rebuilding, just another year for them. The Rockies, you lose Story, you have Chris Bryant, but still arguably the same team. And then the Giants, who had a magical Cinderella story last year. The losing the ALDS, people were very excited to see the push they made. And but you also, again, you lose Chris Bryant. Do they come back to fruition? And I guess just the first thing regarding this, Alex, there was a potential deal for Chris Paddock and top of my head, Dom Smith is going to get traded to the Met, possibly traded to the Mets for Chris Paddock and Eric Hosmer. Before we get into the West, would you have liked that deal?
I was up in the air on that deal.
Yeah, I was surprised. I was talking to some Mets fans. Some Mets fans really hate it, but I mean, Chris Paddock's a really good pitcher.
He is a really good pitcher, but also it's like the weird thing, right? With the Donaldson Cole thing, right? Like we had the weird thing. Paddock and Pete Alonso, people don't forget, they really didn't like each other, especially Chris Paddock.
Over the NL Rookie of the Month or something?
Year, yeah. And then, and then Paddock, I think Paddock gave up a home run to Pete or someone. Pete had a clutch home run in San Diego. I can't remember who it was off of, but he pimped it.
Yeah, I remember.
Remember there was a shot of Paddock, and he wasn't on Paddock. He was in the dugout. And I remember it was a shot of Paddock, and his arms were crossed, and he looked so mad. So mad that happened. So I was like, they probably will be fine. But I like how Dom Smith looked in spring training this year. I think he's going to have a good year. I know he admitted that he played with like a torn labrum last season, which is just like insane that he did that and toughed it out. I mean, it's incredibly hard probably to swing a bat with a torn labrum. So, I liked how he looked. Did I like, and I know that the Padres are probably going to pay a lot of remaining money on Hosmer's deal, so he was only get like $5 to $7 million a year. But there was like no spot for him, and there was some weird clause in that contract that like he couldn't get traded again unless he approved of it. So at the end of the day, like I think Paddock's a great pitcher. I think after a little while, I would have been okay with it. But losing Dom Smith, who's a fan favorite, one of my favorite, and I feel like if he left and gone to San Diego, he probably would have excelled. I think it was a smart move to keep him, see how he is. We have him for the depth. He'd probably be our main DH most days, and see what he has. So I was okay with it at the end of the day. I think I would have been fine if they made the move. It would have taken me a little while to get over losing Dom Smith, but I'm happy that they decided to, push it off for now and see, I guess, what Dom has in store this season.
Pretty good stuff right there. And now to the NL West. Who you like coming out of the division? I said as much I really like what the big moves the Dodgers made. I think they are the team to beat once again.
Yeah, yeah, to me, I can't see it. The Dodgers have the scariest lineup in baseball. I mean, it's so hard. Like, and they add Freddie Freeman to that. So like 1 through 8 is insane, And then you have the university issue, so they have to worry about a pitcher hitting. So it's just incredible that this team, the rich get richer, right? And they add bring Kershaw back. Their pitching staff's already solid as is. I know they lose Scherzer, but their pitching staff's always been solid. So I just don't see the Dodgers losing the division. They're gonna probably win over 100 games. I know some people think they might set the win record this year. Who knows? They very might. They could very might do it. Like, it's just not against them.
Still got Mookie Betts there and Bellinger, as I said before.
It's just insane. And Bellinger, I think, hopefully will have a bounce back year. I know the last 2 years have been a little shaky for Cody. I think he's a great player. I really hope he bounces back. I know he didn't really have a great spring training, so we'll see. But that team is just so stacked offensively. Like, if Cody, like I said, if Cody struggles early, he's probably batting like 7 or 8. That's an MVP batting 7 or 8 in that lineup. That's ridiculous. So, I think it's the Dodgers division. They're going to run with it. It's just I was really like the Padres moves. Their pitching depth is insane now. Adding Manaea to that pitching depth, like, if you look, I don't know, they're probably going to run like a 6-pitcher rotation with what they have, because it's just like endless depth. But with the uncertainty of Fernando Tatis, I really don't know what they're going to do off the bat. I know the Giants kind of had a year a lot of people weren't expecting of them last season. Do I think they're going to have that same success? Possibly. I'm not as sold. I know a few weeks ago I was. I don't really know. I think losing Chris Bryant and things like that could hurt them. I like the addition of Carlos Rodon, so we'll see. But yeah, I really think it's the Dodgers and nothing else at the NL West this year. There's not, last year where we thought, oh my God, it's going to be like the Giants, the Padres, the Dodgers lock in. This is going to be a battle, and it ended up being the Dodgers and the Giants battling, right? The Padres, so flaming out, and there being a massive disappointment. So we'll see. I think it's going to be a really, really fun division this year, at least with those 3 teams. And then, whenever we hear back about Fernando Tatis, I think that team, once he's back in that lineup, we know what he can do. He's an incredible player. So we'll see. But like I said, I think the Dodgers are going to have an unprecedented season with this lineup. It's just too good to not think they're going to win over 100 games this year.
Excellent stuff, Alex. Excellent stuff. So last thing to wrap this up, let's make the predictions once and for all. Who do you think is going to make it out of the AL? Who's going to make it out of the NL? Who do we see playing in the World Series? And who do you think is going to ultimately win it? I'll start with this. And I really, really think that the Dodgers will clearly get back to the World Series, start trying to develop some kind of dynasty, and winning again would obviously make a bigger push for that. I think you need to win 3 championships within 5 years to be considered a dynasty, or 3 consecutively. And I think the AL is really a rock and a hard place here. I really want to say the Yankees will somehow pull in this do or die season for Cashman. I really want to say the Yankees, so I'm going with my heart. I'll say the Yankees will win the AL as wishful thinking, but I will keep it. So this will be a heart decision if we have the Dodgers and Yankees World Series. You know what? It's gonna sound so amateur to say that, because there's nothing that on paper that says this is a pennant winning team, even though that bothers me saying it. But I'm gonna go with that Yankees Dodgers for the heart decision, and then the head decision. I think the Blue Jays sadly is gonna be a hard team to stop. Even losing Robbie Ray, I think they can make a big deal in the offseason too. And with such a scary lineup there, you really have to consider them. So I'm going to go with my professional decision of the Blue Jays and the Dodgers in the World Series, with the Dodgers winning it again. But you know how bad I want that Yankee team to win.
It's a tough one. Because
Which will definitely hit their over,
yeah,
at least.
Yes, at least. They should. Like my heart is with the Mets. And I don't want to sound biased here, but if all things are healthy, everyone's healthy, I like the Mets coming out.
Definitely fair.
I think I really like the top to bottom team if everyone can stay healthy. And we've seen the Mets overcome obstacles before. And I always relate to 2015, that crazy World Series run that we had. And I know we ended up losing, but no one thought we were going to go through either the Cubs or the Dodgers because of how good both those teams were. And you know what the Mets did? They went out, they got hot at the right time, and they beat both teams. I think the NLCS is going to be incredible. I really want it to be Mets Dodgers, because just the rivalry standpoint, East Coast, West Coast, love all that. Just the hype around it. Stacked team, and again, stacked team, if you will. I think that series can go 7. So I'm not trying to be biased, but if just looking at everything, I really think if the Mets are healthy, this is the World Series contending team. If not, if I'm going with brain, it would probably end up being the Dodgers going on again. But for right now, for this sake of the argument, because it's right in the early of the year, and just thinking optically, if everyone's healthy, I think the Mets coming out of the East. Now, same as you, the American League is so tough to decide. There's a lot of really, really good teams. The Astros, the White Sox, even the Yankees, the Red Sox. It just goes on and on who you can pick. Again, the Blue Jays. Like you, I'm going to go with the Blue Jays coming out of the American League. I just really think that offense is so good and so young. Kevin Biggio, Bo Bichette, Vlad Guerrero. You add Matt Chapman. You have George Springer already on that team. You know what he can do. I like the pitching staff, even losing Robbie Ray. I really think their pitching staff is really good and also young as well. So I really like what I've seen, especially from spring training. It looks like Vlad is picking up right where he left off. It looks like he also slimmed down a little bit. That swing is looking incredible as always. Just so much power off that bat. So I'm going with the Blue Jays out of the American League. If I have to pick a backup team out of the American League, it's tough. It's really tough. But I like the White Sox again. There's something about the White Sox. I don't know if it's the Tony La Russa effect or something. But there's that team that's so young, and Luis Robert's one of my favorite players in the league, and Tim Anderson as well. I like the White Sox as well. But for this conversation, I'm going to go Mets, Blue Jays, and I'm going to go with the Mets in probably 6 in that one for the World Series. I think the Mets are going to win the World Series this year. But if everyone knows, as you know as well, Matt, don't quote my picks. Last year, I was awful in my playoff prediction. So we'll see. Obviously, we'll probably have another meetup probably around All-Star, see how the league's going and everything at that point. But those are my picks, early season predictions for the World Series. Mets, Blue Jays this year.
Let's do it. You Mets, Blue Jays. I say Dodgers, Blue Jays. But always know next to it, I'll have the Yankees. You know what, Alex? I will sacrifice the professionalism for this one. I'm going to go with the Yankees, Dodgers. And you know what, people, you have both versions of me saying it clearly on this camera, and microphone. And I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with my gut. I feel lately go with your gut leads to a lot of good things most of the time, or at least you're satisfied you went with your gut. So let's do that. You go with Mets, Blue Jays. I'll go with Yankees, Dodgers. And let's see how accurate we wind up being. And then maybe this is the year your picks work out, Alex, and then people can handicap what you got. Mm-hmm. But pleasure as always, Alex. Killed it once again. Baseball's here, and let's enjoy every second of it. Thank you so much, the great Alex Young, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon, guys.
Bye-bye.